I have a lot of books here, you guys. A lot. Holy man! Hey guys, what's up? It's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video. Today is March 8th. That is International Women's Day. We love to celebrate women. Women are the future of the world. And so for that, I wanted to give my best book recommendations with some pretty powerful female main characters. Alright, if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And yeah, let's get into those recs. Okay, so I actually have quite a pile in front of me, and I have a little bit of an assortment here of different books, so hopefully those will give you guys some options. Some of these I know most of you have read, some of you probably have not read them but know what they are about, but yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, the first one I'm going to do is an obvious one. I'm sure everyone and their grandma and their dog have read this, but let's do it anyway, and that is ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, the series. So this, obviously, you have Feyre, your main character, and yeah, I'm not going to get too much into this because I feel like everybody has read this, or if you haven't, you know what the book is about, but it's basically, the first one is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and Feyre at the beginning of the story is out hunting, and she kills a creature that she was not supposed to kill. It's like illegal. So then this beast-like creature comes and takes her from her family, and his name is Tamlin. And she goes to the spring court where he lives and everything, and she basically has to live there as his prisoner, but he doesn't treat her like a prisoner. And there's a lot more to this, obviously, if you've read ACOMAF and ACOWAR. Yeah, there's other things that happen, but this is the first book, and Feyre is a pretty badass bitch, so that is why I included it. Okay, next for fantasy, this is a YA fantasy, and this is White Hot Kiss by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is actually the first in a trilogy, and it has a love triangle in it, and normally I hate love triangles, but this one I actually loved, and I did end up binging the entire trilogy on Thanksgiving weekend because I just couldn't get enough of it. So our main character is Layla, and Layla is a half demon, half gargoyle, and the demon side of her makes it so she cannot kiss anybody or she will suck out their soul. And the problem for her is her entire life she has grown up with Zane. Zane is a gargoyle who's a couple years older than her, and she has been in love with him her whole life, but she can't be physically intimate with him or it'll kill him. Now, also, despite the fact that Layla is half demon, she's being raised by gargoyles that hate demons, so they use her to hunt other demons in the world. This is a low fantasy, so it does take place like in the modern world and everything, so she's just out in the streets eating McDonald's, hunting demons. Literally, that's I think the first chapter is she finds a demon in a McDonald's, and it was great. So while she's out hunting demons, she then meets Roth, who is a demon himself. Now, because he's a demon and doesn't have a soul, Layla can be intimate with him. So that's where your love triangle is going to go in, and I feel like book 2 is really where the love triangle really hits. But these do end up in cliffhangers. It's one full story, but they are really quick reads. I tabbed a lot of this. I loved the story. I loved both guys. Obviously, I loved one more for her, but the other guy, I was not complaining about him. And there is a spin-off trilogy where the other guy gets his happy ending. So, yeah. Okay, staying on our fantasy kick here, we have Savage Lands. This is another series, obviously, because you need to develop these worlds and you need to develop these badass women. So this one is going to follow Brexley. This is another low fantasy, so you're going to take place in the modern world, and I think this is in Budapest. So what ended up happening was Brexley, our main character, the night she was born, the wall between the human world and the Fae world, it fell. And now they all live together, but there's still like an actual physical wall that separates them. And if the humans go over to the Fae side, they're gonna get in a lot of trouble and they're gonna get imprisoned in, I cannot remember how you say the name of the prison, but what ends up happening at the beginning of the story is Brexley is a soldier and her best friend Kaden, they have been raised together. She's in love with him. They like to jump trains that go back and forth between the human world and the Fae world, and they like to smuggle things out of there to help their people. Well, what ends up happening is she gets caught, and she gets imprisoned in this Fae prison, and it's so, like, everybody knows what this prison is. Nobody knows where the location is, because it's so bad, and obviously they don't want people to break other people out, so it's like so under lock and key. But yeah. So Brexley ends up in this prison, and she meets some fun characters, she meets some bad characters, and then she meets Warwick. And Warwick is very tall, dark, and mysterious. He's kind of described in the book as Jason Momoa, so take that as you will. You don't really know much about him. You just know that he's not human, he's not Fae, he's something else. This is a slow burn, you guys. Like, I just finished book 2 last week, and we're still not quite there yet. But this is enemies to lovers to the max. The sexual tension, you guys, it's there. Like, I'll just say this. When I closed book 2 last week, I was like, okay, come on, you guys, just bang already, because you clearly want to. But yes, Brexley is a total badass female. I highly recommend Savage Lands if you like fantasy. Alright, and then next we have our queen, Poppy, from Blood and Ash. I am currently reading the 3rd book right now, because the 4th book does come out next week, and I am so obsessed with this series. You guys, Poppy, I love her. I love her. Alright, so I won't go into this one too much because a lot of people have read it or they know what it's about. And you have Poppy. Poppy is described as the Maiden. Now, in her world, the Maiden is somebody very important that is going to be used for the Ascension later on in life. Like I said, there's a lot of world building in these ones in particular. I don't have the best reading comprehension, so please bear with me. I'm going to try to explain this the best that I can. Okay, so Poppy is like her kingdom's treasured garden maiden, and by being the guarded maiden, she has to wear white and she has to wear a veil where no one can see her face, and the only people that have ever seen her face are like a few people in the palace and like her very close guard or something like that. But the fact is she's very pure, she can't be touched, she can't have a life, she can't be seen. It really sucks. And so her whole life, her main guard, Victor, who she has looked at as a father figure, he has secretly been training her in combat. And so Poppy knows that, Poppy has her own dagger, you guys. Like, Poppy and her daggers, like, that's the thing. And she is very badass, and she wants to fight, and she wants to save herself. And that is what I loved about it. But what ends up happening is one of her other guards ends up dying at the beginning of the book, so she needs a replacement guard. And that's where you meet Hawk. And Hawk is very tall, dark, and mysterious, described as very beautiful looking. I'm not going to go much into this because if you read this, you know. But yeah, and what I loved about Hawk was the type of guy where he let Poppy fight. And he let her be a badass. And he lets her hold daggers to his neck. And I'm here for it. So yeah, go pick up From Blood and Ash for a very strong female character. Alright, and then last in my fantasy pile is Zodiac Academy. We have 2 strong female characters here. They are twins, Tori and Darcy. At the beginning of the book, they are 18. They live in Chicago. They have recently gotten out of foster care. They are trying to make ends meet. They are having a hard time with it, and Tori steals motorcycles and gives them to body shops to like turn around and resell. So at the beginning of the story, she's doing that, and there's a guy chasing after her, and he follows her back to the apartment, and his name is Lance O'Ryan, and it turns out that he is a professor at Zodiac Academy, and he tells Tori and Darcy that they are actually Fae royalty. Their parents were king and queen, and that they need to come to Zodiac Academy, get their education so that they can get their inheritance and their rightful place on the throne. So then they get to Zodiac Academy and they find out it is not the best place in the world. There are 4 male heirs for each elemental house. You have air, water, fire, and earth, and each of these guys represents that. And since their parents, the king and queen, were killed a long time ago, the heirs' families have taken over ruling their world. And so when Tori and Darcy arrive at Zodiac Academy, they realize that majority of the people, they don't want them to take the throne. They didn't like their parents. I can't remember, but I think their father was called like the Ruthless King or something like that. Not very well respected. So people at the academy, they would rather have the 4 boys, the heirs, rule. They don't want the girls to take the throne. So the boys, they bully them, and in turn other students from the school bully them, and yeah, but they are strong. I have to start book 3, but these girls are fighting back. They definitely don't just sit down and take it. And I love it. I love both Tori and Darcy. Tori is my favorite. Darcy was also really incredibly strong too. But yes, I highly recommend this if you love some fantasy and you love multi-POVs and strong women. And this just had some fun stuff in it, you guys. Okay, this next one I have is a thriller. It's a YA mystery thriller, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is the first in a trilogy. You don't have to read all of them, but I do highly, strongly recommend it because I binged them all in a few days. All 3 stories have different mysteries, but they all, you find out they all intertwine each other, and the whole story comes complete, and I just loved it. And it was really fun, too. So this book follows Pip. She is a senior in high school, and for her senior project, she decides that she is going to re-solve a murder in her town that had already been solved 5 years prior. However, there were some holes in the case, and she thinks that the person that was accused was wrongfully accused. So she sets out to set things right, basically. Now, unfortunately, what ended up happening was the man that was wrongfully accused of murder, he ended up dead the very next day that the girl who had been murdered went missing. And so basically the town and the cops thought he just killed himself, and then they wrapped it up. But Pip sees that there's a lot of holes in that, and so she wants to investigate it herself. So what she ends up doing is she tracks down the younger brother of the guy that was accused of murder, and the brother's name is Sal, and Pip and Sal, they solve this mystery together, and it's such a cute little romance, and he is so supportive of her, and she's so smart, and every time she gets in danger, you guys, because this has a lot of Pretty Little Liars vibes, so you know when you're getting close to solving the murder, you know you have people leaving you threatening notes saying stop looking. She didn't stop looking. Like, she was determined to figure this out, and I just loved it. Another thing I want to say too is this was a fun book to read. It was really fast, and what I loved about it was it's not just regular text. You have like police script interviews, there's emails in here, text messages, you have maps and charts, so you can kind of like, I loved it. This was just so fun to read, and I want more books like this. So if you have any more like this, drop some recs down below, because mystery thrillers used to be all that I read until last year, and I discovered romance, and now there's never going back. Okay, this next one, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I talk about this series all the time on my channel. It is my favorite, probably know, and that is the Devil's Night series. But these ladies are pretty badass, and to be romantic with the Four Horsemen, you kind of have to be badass. So the first book, you have Rika. I will be honest, Rika kind of annoys me, but she is really tough, and Rika is Penelope's favorite character. You can tell Rika's always training. She's fighting to be stronger because a lot of shit happens to her in book 1, and in the rest of the series you can kind of see that she never wants that shit to happen again. So yes, you have Rika for book 1, and then for book 2 you have Banks. Banks, oh my god. You want the definition of badass? That was Banks. I freaking loved her. This girl can fight. And she also is described as one of those girls where she covers herself up. She wears a lot of baggy clothes. She wears her brother's jeans and sweatshirts because she doesn't want her curves or anything to be shown. And Kai is just very intrigued by her. So yes, I love Banks. And then we have Kill Switch, and I love Damon, you guys. Everybody loves Damon, but we have to talk about the woman that snagged Damon, and that is Winter. And Winter, you guys, is blind, and that does not stop her from being a goddamn freaking badass. She's a ballerina, but she can't fully dance and perform for people like she used to because she was not born blind, you guys. She had an accident, and it's connected to Damon, and it's a whole another reason why I love this book. But yes, Winter is blind. She's a total badass. She's always determined to go search and find things on her own. Another thing that I liked about this was that Damon does not handicap her. Like, he does not say, no, you can't do that, that's too dangerous. In these books, you guys, if you've read them, obviously a lot of crazy shit happens, and these guys are like doing some wild missions and stuff, and he doesn't keep her behind. He's like, nope, you're part of this too. So I love Winter. She was just incredible. That's book 3. And then book 4, we have Nightfall, and that is Emery. Emery is our book smart girl, but she had a lot going on with her personal life, with her brother who was physically abusing her, and then at the same time she was also trying to take care of her grandmother who was bedridden at home, and there was just a lot, and Emery would do anything for her grandmother, and that personally hit me because I used to be a full-time caregiver for my grandmother before she passed away last October, and I was actually reading this book that week she was in the process of passing, and a lot of stuff hit close to home, and just everything Emery would do for her grandmother, I loved it. Ugh, yes, but that is the Devil's Night series. They are not going to be for everybody. Obviously, check your trigger warnings, but all of these ladies are pretty badass in their own way. Okay, so for my last 3, they are all Mariana Zapata books. If you comment below and say, wait a minute, why didn't you include this book? It's because I have not read all of Mariana Zapata's books yet, so I'm eventually getting to it. But the first one is All Roads Lead Here. This one follows 33-year-old Aurora. She is a recent divorcee, and she has arrived in a small town in Colorado where her and her mother used to live when she was younger. What ended up happening was her mother was very outdoorsy, and she loved to hike all the time. Well, one time she went on a hike and she went missing and she was never found. So Aurora, because she's a recent divorcee, she's moving on with her life, and she basically comes here and she has a list, and she wants to honor her mother, and she wants to go on all of her mother's favorite trails and everything like that. And she was determined to do everything on her own. She did not play the victim. She did make some choices that were not stupid, but she didn't play the victim about it. And the man in this book is like the greatest man I have ever read about. Tobias Rhodes still lives in my mind rent-free. I love this book. Aurora was so determined to make her life what she wanted it, and she didn't complain. She didn't sit there and cry. She was very mature, I have to say. Out of every romance book that I have read, the maturity in this book was just sky high, off the charts. And Tobias Rhodes also, they both were very mature. There was none of that miscommunication crap. Like, I loved this book. So go pick up this one if you love slow burn. Alright, and then next from Mariana Zapata, I have From Lukov with Love. You have Jasmine. Jasmine is a figure skater. What I loved about this book was it is grumpy, and Jasmine has an attitude, and she has a lot of my attitude, and I loved it. I was here for it. I ended up highlighting and tabbing a lot of the things that she said, like about not wanting to talk to people and hang out with people, because I felt that in my soul, you guys. But yes, Jasmine, she's stubborn, and she has never won a figure skating title at all. So at the beginning of the book, her rival, Ivan, he is out a partner, and he asks her to do it. And I can't remember, but I think at first she says no, but then afterwards she's like, you know what, I have to do this. You're my only hope. So she gets over that really quickly, but she is tough, and she is determined, and she wants to make a name for herself. So I loved Jasmine. I was here for her. And then last but not least, we have my comfort book, my favorite book of all time, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. This is a marriage of convenience. You follow Vanessa. Vanessa is Aiden. He is an NFL player. She's his assistant. And at the beginning of the book, she overhears him and his manager talking crap about her. So she is like, you know what? I'm not going to work for you anymore. Goodbye. A few weeks later, Aiden comes groveling back to her, and he says that his visa is up. He has to leave the country because he's Canadian, and asks her to marry him in the process. Now, up until Aiden had come back groveling, Vanessa had quit, and she was determined to make her life better. I think she colored her hair a fun color. She started running because she wanted to do a marathon. That was also a big part of this book, was her training for this marathon, because she had never done anything physical in her life, and she was very determined to run this marathon and get it done. And I just love this book. She was very for, you know, promoting herself and making herself a better person. Another thing is that she was into graphic design, and she was working on that while she was doing this marriage of convenience with Aiden. She was also working on her business and growing it. And I loved Vanessa. I had a lot of respect for her. She just wanted better things for herself, and I'm all for that. Okay guys, that is gonna do it for my powerful leading ladies recommendations. If you guys have any more recommendations with some powerful female leads, please drop them down below. I am always looking for more. I do have some more on my shelf of some more series that I need to get to. I just have not started them yet, but they are high up on the list. So yeah. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!